So, here we are, Business Support Unit. Rob, how did the concept first come up, and what is the proposition now for a small business?
Okay, the Business Support Unit was formed 3 or 4 years ago, and over that time we've developed a new initiative, which is basically a website listing 4 or 5 packages that work for sole traders up to developed limited companies. And it basically shows you what you can get under one package. So if you've got needs for self-assessment tax or payroll or VAT bookkeeping, or you want to look at reporting, we can provide you a package, and depending on what you require, you'll fit into one of the packages, and there's lots of opportunities for yourself as a business to grow.
So from the point where you talk to the client, I'm presuming that we would then have the opportunity to develop and expand on the conversation of how they envisage the payroll to work within their business unit, because a lot of the time you find that clients have an idea, they have a vision, but the reality is totally different. So it's always nice to just talk them through, like a storyboard from start to end, and allow them to decide how they want that to fit into business unit.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, every business is different, and their needs are different depending on the owner's requirements. And so, you know, you may be advising on a small director salary. There may be a business with multiple employees and they've got a lot more payroll considerations. And it's the same thing with tax. You know, we've got dividend planning and a lot of other areas as well. So it's really just an opportunity for all kinds of businesses to have that discussion with us and see what's best for them.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, and that's what I would initially think as well, in terms of how tax and the BSU can fit in together. You know, I'm sure there's clients, I've seen many clients come on board who would have needs in regards to tax, for example, how to remunerate their employees in the most tax efficient ways, or how to raise external funding through SEIS, EIS schemes, dividend planning, that type of thing. So I think where I see tax is, you know, that's where I see tax fitting in with the BSU team.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that point is really important, that one of the keys to this is that you need to have information that you can rely on in order to do that planning, whether it be for payroll or tax, or, you know, even the statutory side of things. So we look at the kind of software and the apps that you can use to really get in charge of your finances, to make sure that your bookkeeping's up to date, so that you're not falling behind with compliance, and so that you can look ahead with advisory work and actually plan for the future, see problems before they arise, and look at the opportunities as well, which is obviously what we want.
It's good that you say about see problems before they arise, because from what I have seen, having been involved in various different bureau environments, that a lot of companies take the assumption that you just press a button and you will have no involvement, whereas there's a lot of analysis that goes into something to prevent, you know, costs that could eventually end up with the client that could be huge, and they would probably get annoyed because we could have stepped in and assisted.
Yeah.
And that's how I think that's our best approach in being proactive in doing that, rather prevent rather than cure.
Yeah, exactly. And I think also this is an important point, that the cost of getting the figures right in the first place, advising in advance, is going to be a lot less than the cost of fixing a mistake. Yeah. You know, if it's an HMRC inquiry, if it's, you know, some kind of legal issue, you want to get your figures right and you want to be watertight. Mm-hmm. You want to understand them, and that's what we can do, because we're all really good at helping get through the jargon and just kind of keep it simple.
So can I just pick up on the jargon bit, because you've mentioned statutory, you've mentioned compliance, payroll, tax. As a small business owner, I'm looking at a finance function, and all of those come under it. A lot of small business owners probably won't understand what statutory means.
Yep.
And compliance, you know. So I think for me, the BSU strips away all of that, because what I'm hearing is you're all saying you're basically outsourcing. As a business, I can outsource my finance function to you. I can get the expertise across all areas of the finance spectrum, if you like. But what do you think the real challenges are for a small business? What are the challenges that they may face?
Well, for me, in the area that I cover, what I'm looking at is time and expertise and cost. So a business owner, their skill set is running their business and managing their finances, looking after the books. It's not their strongest suit always. And so it still needs to be done. If it's not done, you'll fall behind, you'll find these issues arising. And so putting it out there to somebody who's got the skill set, got the resources like we have, can really be advantageous. And it can just present so many opportunities for growth, I think.
So I would tend to agree with that. I've noticed that, small business owners, because things like tax and business aren't their area of expertise, they often miss out things like, for example, saving on R&Ds, or the fact that they can implement various employee incentive schemes to incentivize their employees, especially if they're short on cash. So that's, kind of where our expertise would step in. And also in regards to compliance, people may not tend to be, very confident in terms of what they need to file, how they need to file it, how they need to interact with HMRC. And I think the BSU in general and the departments it works with really do play a good role in simplifying all of that for the client.
Yeah, definitely. And I think with HMRC, there's so many changes. It's just non-stop. MTD, is it coming in? When's it coming in? There's just requirements if you're VAT registered, if you're CIS registered, if you're a limited company. There's just so many things that need to be done. And compliance, looking back at what's happened, reporting by certain deadlines, it's really crucial, because if you don't do that on time, you'll face penalties.
So can you just, for the benefits of the camera, compliance means?
So compliance is reporting on what's happened, basically. So if you've had a financial period, if we say a year end, you have a certain amount of time to file those accounts with the relevant body, whether it's Companies House or HMRC. And so it's the same thing for VAT and CIS and other taxes, PAYE.
Sorry, what's CIS?
So Construction Industry Scheme. So it won't apply to all businesses, but we will be able to guide you if your business is, linked to that in any way. And essentially, compliance is looking back and making sure you've reported on what you need to report on what's happened. Advisory, which I mentioned earlier, is kind of looking forward. So when you're up to date with your compliance and you're up to date with your bookkeeping, you can then start to look forward and you can see, well, what if my business grows? What if my biggest customer leaves? What if I want to employ 2 new employees? Can I afford it? What's the impact? And you can start to look forward and really plan ahead. Can I afford this new bit of equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So advisory is looking forward into the future. It's not really using a crystal ball. It's using figures, real life figures, and the what if scenarios.
Okay. So we've talked about small and medium business, but what type of business is going to benefit from the BSU? And
I mean, we've had a lot of experience with sole traders who are just starting their journey and need a lot of hand-holding and kind of a lot of support and guidance as they get set up. And that's something that I think we're really good at, because we've got patient members of the team, we've got experienced members of the team, we've got people who kind of know what they're doing and how to help and how to explain things. But we've also dealt with a lot of larger businesses as well. And to be honest, from my perspective, I would say the important thing is not necessarily the type of business in terms of the size or the industry. It's about the type of people, because we are building relationships with people, and we think that the type of people we work best with are those who are open to suggestions, who acknowledge that they may have a gap in their skill set, and that's why they're looking to work with somebody like us who can help.
And that covers all of the areas, I'm guessing, because
Yeah.
payroll is an ongoing process.
Very much so, especially with the changes that are happening with HMRC now. Things such as getting somebody's date of birth accurate and not just saying, I think it's that, because it has an impact on various areas. Your state pension at the end of the day, but it's also about the individual who picks up the phone and speaks to HMRC. They're going to go through security questions, and those security questions could potentially include, what's your date of birth? And if you've got that wrong, that's not HMRC's fault. Well, shouldn't be, but it's your fault. You know, the company that set up their employee. That needs to, from the very word go when somebody is given or set up on a payroll system, all that information has to be accurate because it's feeding various different government sources.
Okay. So I guess to sort of bring it together, what if you had to sum up in 3 points what the benefits are to a business of using the BSU, what would they be?
3 points. Well, I would say that you're going to be working with somebody who's very dependable. We are very much involved in your affairs. You know, we take your business as something that matters to us. You're not just another client that we need to churn out accounts or VAT return for. So I think that the actual interest, the human element of being able to speak to somebody, I'll leave a third point to somebody else.
We've got that can-do attitude, and you're not going to know everything, but we do put ourselves out to research and get the accurate information needed to satisfy that particular client. So it's also learning, training, and also acknowledgement that we're going to get it right for the individual concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I would confer with all of those things. You know, I think in general, you can't really call Charterhouse traditional accountants in the context of we like to be a lot more involved with the client and with their affairs. You know, we're quite personable. It's not going to be a case of you give us your stuff and then we churn it out and you go away type of thing. So I think that's one of the major areas where we have an advantage.
Yeah, and I think also actually, to be fair, value for money is a good point. We've got these various packages which do cover the smallest business up to the larger. You can move through the tiers if you wanted to grow, if you wanted a bit more. You know, one package may give some reports and another package may not. If you want those reports, we can adapt. You know, we're very adaptable. We're happy to work with any client to fit their needs the best.